people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News. Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that after a long time inactive, reigning IBF Super Flyweight Champion of Mexico, Irma Garcia, will be returning to action on the undercard of a Marv Nation show south of the border in Mexico against seasoned veteran Gloria Gallardo, her countrywoman. This will be Irma's first fight in a long time. Irma was last in action in November of last year. This will be her first and only fight, this one. 43 years old, sporting a professional record of 23 wins with 5 losses, 1 draw, 4 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 29 professional bouts. To Gloria Gallardo, the younger of the two, 13 years younger to be exact, sporting a professional record of 15 wins with 2 losses, 3 draws, 6 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 20 professional bouts. Last in action in July of this year opposite the ring Maria Sumano, who she beat by way of a unanimous decision in what was an 8-rounder. Before that, she faced Australia's own Taylor Robertson. Fought to a split decision against Taylor in March, returned to action in July, and here she is returning again in December. So that's saying that this will be her 3rd fight of this year, and she's 13 years younger than the reigning champion. Thus, it is conceivable that the IBF title could change hands. We could end up seeing a new champion crowned. It wouldn't surprise me. Irma Garcia has been beat before. She got beat by Maciela Lujan, beat by Daniela Bermudez, beat by Guadalupe Guzman. So it's possible that under these circumstances, Gloria Gallardo might beat her. She's up there in age. She's been out for a while. It wouldn't surprise me. Irma Garcia is one of 4 champions in the super flyweight division that is seeing a lot of movement late in the year. She's returning to action in December. So is Ashley Gonzalez, this division's reigning WBC champion. She, like Irma, has been out for a while. She, like Irma, has a fight coming up, as does Mizuki Hiruta of Japan, reigning WBO champion. She's got a fight in the books for early next year, presumably against her mandatory challenger. The champions are returning to action in a division that very much is an open book. There's no shortage of talent in the women's super flyweight division. You have the champions, the belt holders, and all these unbeaten up-and-comers that are coming through. There are quite a few, but it still is a division that doesn't have a face. Yeah, mostly because none of the 4 belt holders are with a major promotional outfit to push and promote this division and bring exposure to it. That could soon change. Irma's not with a major promoter. Neither is Ashley. Neither is Mizuki Hiruta or reigning WBA champion of Argentina, Clara Lescurat. Where things are starting to pick up late this year, they might pick up even more next year, as I anticipate newly crowned undisputed flyweight champion Gabby Fundora might move up to Superfly. She's with Golden Boy. She's got a major promoter behind her, boxing on a major platform, and this division is ripe for the taking. She became the inaugural women's undisputed flyweight champion in her last fight. And there are no big-name fights left at flyweight. There's not much left to keep her there now that she's collected all the belts, and given her youth and her statuesque frame, it's conceivable she'll move up the next time we see her. If not next, after next. Her next fight. So when I see this late surge from the champions that have been missing in action for a while, Irma, Ashley, Mizuki, they're getting ready. Make no mistake, this is a deep division that is made that much deeper by the integration of Gabby Fundora. It's only a matter of time before Gabby moves up, and when she does, who do you think she's going to go after? The champions, the belt holders. So they've got to get busy, shake the cobwebs off, and sharpen those tools, because you're going to need them. Things are getting serious in the women's super flyweight division, and Irma Garcia, 43 years old, a year removed from the sport, she could end up losing the blue belt in her very next fight.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Set to return to action next month on the 13th. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. In men's junior middleweight news, I'm sure most of you have heard by now, per a tweet from Dan Raphael, Golden Boy Promotions' Make a War says, preliminary talks have begun, with matchroom boxing for Vergil Ortiz versus Ennis at 154 on February 22nd, Riyadh season card.
That's shaping up to be a really nice-looking card that will presumably be headlined by Daniel Dubois against an opponent that has yet to be announced. On the card, you're going to have Anthony Cacace versus Sugar Munoz.
Action fight.
Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz.
Action fight.
Vergil Ortiz versus Ennis.
Action fight.
And of course, Daniel Dubois, who we all know is an action fighter in his own right. It's a nice looking card already. If you've been keeping up with the updates, these are the fights you can expect to see on that show. And in spite of all of this, there's still some pushback from the Americans.
I saw a longtime content creator in True School Sports react to the news by saying, Vergil Ortiz versus Ennis in Saudi, Turkey is destroying American boxing.
What?
Turkey LL Sheikh continues his smoke and mirrors tour in boxing promotion.
How many times and how many videos did I tell you that the American boxing scene ain't what it used to be, the American audience? And these are the kind of willfully ignorant people that would cut off their nose to spite their face, because this fight was not going to happen on its own.
Left to its own devices, boxing might not have delivered us this fight because it would have been up to Oscar and Eddie to put it together.
Smoke and Mirrors tour of boxing promotion?
Turkey's brought us several great shows and some meaningful fights, historic ones like Fury versus Usyk and Better Be versus Bivol, and you're complaining. Now Vergil Ortiz versus Ennis, potentially, and you're mad.
Why are you mad?
Because it's not happening in America? Because an American promoter didn't put it together? I mean, don't you understand that we weren't going to get this? In fact, the only thing that's making it possible is the amount of money that Turkey's willing to put up. So much, he can make it happen. I saw another original thinker in Easy Raw Brunch Boxing say, what is Turkey accomplishing? He had bought a lot of things in boxing, but it sure doesn't feel like he owns boxing.
Who owned it before?
A strong PBC schedule would have more effect on the sport than everything done to this point.
You know that by saying that, you're acknowledging that their schedule this year wasn't strong.
He caps off this idiotic annotation by saying, Ortiz versus Boots in Saudi will not make any noise. He's not even happy that the fight is being made. I look at these individuals as boxing's equivalent of the DNC. The collective pouting that you've been seeing since these elections were decided, irrespective of what side of those elections you're on, that's how these guys are behaving, like a bunch of crybabies, like Joy Behar on The View.
Blue-haired losers.
How many celebrities felt it necessary to announce that they would be leaving the X platform due to Elon Musk's affiliation with the Republican Party?
Pouting.
I'm taking my ball and I'm leaving.
So leave. That's what this resembles. That's what this looks like. If you don't like Ennis versus Ortiz happening in Saudi, then don't watch it.
Don't watch nothing. Just wait for the next PBC show, which isn't scheduled to go down till February of next year. What are you gonna do, Mr. Boxing Fan?
Boxing fans, content creators that seek to turn over a profit from the sport of boxing, but talking about what? All the fights the PBC are not doing?
All the fights they didn't do this year?
And all the big fight news that isn't coming out of America, since it's only the American boxing scene you're concerned with.
Not even the American boxing scene, just Heyman, Al Heyman and his PBC, his failed project.
Because if you've been kicked off major networks in NBC, and Fox, and Showtime, and you're now down to doing just 5 shows in a calendar year,
You failed.
your experiment failed. Golden Boy had a comprehensive schedule of fights this year. So did Top Rank, so did Matchroom, so did Queensberry.
Even Pro Box.
You didn't because you failed. And I don't anticipate it's going to get better for them in the coming calendar year, short of some other platform making a decision to pick them up, and I don't see why they would.
What's the strength of the stable? What's the strength of the cards?
You're on Amazon Prime now, baby! They've got over 200 million subscribers.
Is that not a big enough platform for you?
I know what you're gonna say, that Amazon is not working hard enough to push and promote these PBC shows. But after so many years in the sport of boxing, the PBC needs Amazon to do that? You don't have an audience built in? An audience already that keeps up with what you're doing, that you have to rely on Amazon to promote you?
I mean, by the time you make it to the Amazon platform, you should have theoretically built up your audience from your days on NBC and your days on Showtime, your time at Fox.
They're not happy that Turkey is the financier that Al Heyman pretends to be, the financier they wish Al Heyman was.
All the fairy tales they made up about him.
That if it's not Al Heyman at the helm, and it's not Al Heyman in control, these guys are not happy. And if a fight is not happening in America,
Forget it.
True School Sports, one of the older channels here in the YTBC, he claims that Turkey is ruining boxing by putting together a fight that wasn't going to happen. It really wasn't going to happen on its own. For that, he's ruining boxing.
Because nothing is better than something? Because you'd rather that the fight not happen at all than see it happen in Saudi.
What is that, if not cutting off your nose to spite your face?
I'm telling you, it's boxing's equivalent of the DNC.
Come on, I don't want to get political.
It's not the politics where the parallel lies. It's in the behaviors. It's in the pouting. DNC's willful ignorance to Kamala Harris's campaign, claiming that she ran a perfect campaign. Clearly she didn't.
It's not that different from what these guys do with Al Heyman. They want me and you to believe that he's running a perfect campaign, so to speak. He runs a tight ship.
Is that why he's been kicked off 3 major networks?
I don't even consider these people boxing fans, to be honest with you. And if the trend continues in this trajectory, it wouldn't surprise me if they stopped watching boxing. Because they're not boxing fans in the boxing sense. What they like more than anything is the dysfunction and the drama more often attached to the American boxing scene as opposed to the UK one or the Asian one.
They don't want fights. They want sound bites. They don't want fights. They want interviews. They want bickering.
Bunch of podcasters all talking about the same goddamn thing, the same 5 or 6 fighters. That's what they want more than fights. They would prefer that boxing in America continue to stagnate so that they can keep up this shared delusion about Al Heyman and his PBC for xenophobia. They would prefer that Ortiz and Boots not fight at all than fight in Saudi.
Because if they do,
Turkey's ruining boxing.
by making boxing matches.
So I thought this would satisfy what Jaron Ennis's critics wanted, because a lot of people have been asking him to leave the Baron welterweight division where he'd be favored to beat everyone and move up for the real smoke. Move up to junior middleweight. If they get this fight over the line, that's what he's doing.
And you're upset?
Why are you mad?
Still room for the fight to collapse because I don't trust Oscar De La Hoya to put one of his prize stallions in this situation. He doesn't really have that many to go around, and that's reality.
Did you see William Zepeda mysteriously became injured as soon as it was time to fight Shakur?
Was actually supposed to happen this year, but Williams said he'd be busy, so he couldn't fight Shakur. He did have time to fight Tevin Farmer, though. And, after he beats Tevin, people are expecting Stevenson is next, but nope.
You can't do it next year either.
So I was skeptical about that fight ever happening, and I'm still skeptical about this one. Irrespective of what the reports are, there's still time between now and February for all of this to fall apart.
I'm curbing my enthusiasm, but it's the reactions that got my attention. The Americans.
You're not happy they might put this together? You're not excited? What kind of boxing fan are you?
Told you, these are not boxing fans.
Men's heavyweight news, we see that veteran fighters Manuel Char and Kubrat Pulev are set to share the ring with each other early next month for a WBA regular title.
Who cares?
Angel Memo Heredia of Team Benavides took to his social media and stated, once again, drug testing, VADA, has been delayed for David Morrell and plenty of excuses. Is he waiting to clean up or is he loading? It's unacceptable and unfair how testing can be manipulated. He tagged Victor Cante, ESPN Knockout, Boxing Scene, Barboza Box, Pilati ESPN, Chava ESPN, and Ernesto Amador. He's blowing the whistle. He's airing out what is seemingly David Morrell's dirty laundry, but that really is rich, coming from Angel Memo Heredia of all people. I mean, Angel's got the same kind of background as Victor Conti. Not as widely publicized, not as well known.
The content creators don't spend as much time talking about Angel's past as they do Victor's.
So it's the same thing. He used to distribute banned substances to athletes, just like Victor, so that many years later, when he ends up being David Benavidez' strength and conditioning coach, and he's pointing the finger at David Morrell, suspicious of foul play.
Come on.
So David Benavidez has never been a body beautiful fighter in terms of his musculature, his physique. He's never been an Adonis. He's always been kind of gangly and fleshy around the midsection, around the body. When he first hires Memo Heredia, for the first time I've ever seen, he had six-pack abs. He was ripped.
Right?
Some time passes, and Memo has a falling out with David's father, Jose. They didn't use Memo Heredia for the last fight, the Vajdik fight. You will notice that he was fat and flabby and fleshy in that fight. He had titties. In spite of the collective gaslighting of a few, David Benavidez did not look good in his last fight, so I'm not surprised he decided to bring Memo back for this one. But if the implication is that Memo might be supplying David Benavidez with performance-enhancing drugs to improve upon his performance, how could he be the same one calling upon VADA to test David Morrell?
Won't that testing also expose his fighter? Won't it expose David Benavidez?
If I can speak plainly, reconciling all of this, Memo is a vet. You think he doesn't know his way around an anti-doping test?
What he's hoping is that Team Morrell doesn't.
Since the implementation of anti-doping testing in boxing became normalized in the last decade or so, because that's really where it started to ramp up, my view of it has changed. Where before, I was naive enough to think they were trying to clean up the sport, that's not the view I have now. I think it's a means of handicapping your opponent. That if you're on some kind of gear, and so are they, anti-doping testing might handicap them, might cripple them.
Is that so far-fetched?
At minimum, it is an alternative to the conventional perspective that maybe anti-doping testing in the sport of boxing isn't actually about cleaning it up so much as crippling your opponent.
And that would put a very different complexion on a lot of conversations, a lot of situations that we've seen over the years.
There is still rumors about Memo out there right now. Rumors about what he's really doing for these fighters.
Not just David.
Of course, you're innocent until proven guilty. They're just rumors, and they should be treated as such. But because those rumors are out there, I find it taboo, awkward, that Angel should act as the whistleblower.
My honest opinion is that David Benavidez is on something, and he was on something as a super middleweight. Perhaps not a steroid, not an anabolic steroid, but a diuretic, something to help him make the weight, make 168.
No, I don't think he was on tren while he was at 168, nothing like that, though perhaps he might be now that he's at a higher weight and fighting bigger men.
That's explosive. I know, that's a hot take.
But underneath it all, I really do think that David Benavidez is on something, and whatever it is, he's getting it from Memo. So that when that same Memo tries to blow the whistle on David Morrell, who might also be on something, I don't rule that out, that communicates apprehensiveness, nerves.